Hello and welcome back. Thank you for joining me. In this video, I have yet another very important update for you regarding the events that are rapidly unfolding in the global economy. The video is titled Central Banks Shift from Dollar to Gold, Euro, and Yuan. Before I begin, please make sure that you subscribe and turn on video notifications. Give this video a thumbs up. If you use the video platform, it's absolutely free and it helps my channel tremendously. Thank you so much for your support. Here is a quick update. The International Monetary Fund just warned that there are major risks associated with the U.S. dollar dominance, as global economies find themselves having to pay an increasing amount for energy due to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Every single day, central banks around the world must sell a portion of their foreign exchange reserves to purchase natural gas, oil, or other commodities from countries such as Russia. For example, if you want to buy $1 million worth of Russian gas, you need to first purchase euros or rubles. In order to get them, you would have to sell a portion of your dollar reserves. As a result, the IMF says that the demand for safe assets such as gold is expected to increase. And this is exactly what we've seen over the past several months. The price of gold has been moving up steadily. Now, many central banks are actively rebalancing their reserves by selling off a portion of their dollar holdings and buying more gold. This means that the United States dollar could lose its position as the dominant global currency sooner than we expect. It may also mean that the United States Treasury securities will see decreased demand, which in turn could lead to higher interest rates here in the United States. In addition to that, recently the Bank of International Settlements, which is an organization that represents 63 of the world's central banks, said that euro and Chinese Yuan denominated assets were the most attractive investments among global central banks last year. The BIS said that central banks bought a net $74 billion worth of Chinese Yuan, and also they purchased a net $28 billion worth of euros. So let's take a look at some recent developments. First, the People's Bank of China, which is the country's central bank, just announced that it increased its holdings of gold for the 7th month in a row. The PBOC added 58 tons of gold to its reserves in July, bringing the total to 1,991 tons of gold held in foreign exchange reserves. This is the highest level since 2009. You can see here that the purchases were very consistent over the past several months. So this is truly a deliberate action by China's central bank. China is not alone. Many central banks around the world have been adding gold to their reserves, including the central banks of Turkey, India, Thailand, Egypt, and many others. These countries realize that gold is a safe haven asset that preserves wealth, and it is an excellent risk hedge. And now I would like to draw your attention to something else that happened recently. Saudi Arabia announced that it wants to diversify away from the dollar. They said that they would like to have gold, yuan, and euros as part of their reserves. And here's the statement by the governor of the Saudi Central Bank. He said, "We have started building a portfolio of non-dollar assets as part of our efforts to diversify away from the dollar. We have started building small allocations to gold. We also have some exposure to the euro and the Chinese yuan." So you can see that the Saudi Central Bank is taking small steps to diversify. Of course, being a conservative Islamic nation, they will move very slowly and gradually, but eventually the entire Middle East region will likely follow suit. You already know that the majority of the countries in the Middle East have close ties to China. China is their largest trading partner, so it makes perfect sense for them to want to do business in their local currencies instead of the US dollar. By the way, if you haven't already, I strongly recommend that you watch my video on the BRICS Alliance, where I go into further detail. You will learn what the goals of the BRICS bloc are and how the future looks for these developing nations. Let's take a look at the key points again. Global central banks are expected to rebalance their reserves and reduce the share of the US dollar as the result of higher demand for euros and the Chinese yuan. In addition to that, we have the BRICS bloc members that are actively working towards settling trade in their local currencies, reducing the demand for the United States dollar even further. The BRICS bloc represents 40% of the world's population and 24% of global GDP. So that is a significant portion of the global economy. One of the key goals of Brexit is to reduce dependence on the dollar. With that, of course, we should expect to see increased demand for gold as well as other currencies that are considered to be safe haven assets, given the current state of the global economy, geopolitical tensions and conflicts, along with high inflation. There is no question that we will continue seeing central banks buying gold, and we will also continue to see them buying the euro and the Chinese yuan. This is why we have been witnessing significant changes in the global banking system over the past several months. For example, the European Central Bank just kicked off a new digital euro project. The digital euro is likely to become a reality in several years, but it's very likely going to be launched in time for the 2024 Olympic Games, which will be held in France. So it is quite possible that the digital euro will become a fully functional currency by then. With that, the French President Emmanuel Macron called on the EU finance ministers to create a common investment fund. The goal would be to fund the development of new technologies that would make Europe less dependent on the United States. According to Macron, this will allow Europe to decrease its reliance on other countries for certain advanced technologies. So far, Germany was against the idea of creating such a fund, but they are now considering it, although they are still concerned about picking up the tab. If you remember, Germany has been extremely reluctant to spend any money. In fact, they refused to help Greece when it needed assistance during the sovereign debt crisis. However, with the war in Ukraine and the economic sanctions imposed on Russia, Germany has realized that it truly needs allies. And that is why the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz recently agreed to invest billions of dollars into modernizing the Bundeswehr, which is the German armed forces. At the same time, the ECB is making significant progress in terms of the digital euro launch. The main objective is to make the digital currency legal tender within the Eurozone. And according to the European Commission, it will provide better payment options for citizens and businesses. Think about it. If the United States launches a CBDC, the Eurozone will have a digital currency option. And of course, China will continue to develop its digital Yuan, which is already used by millions of people on a daily basis. So it's becoming more and more obvious that cash will become obsolete very soon. And while the European Union is working on the digital euro, China is actively promoting the use of its digital currency. China just launched digital yuan trials at the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics. Nearly 2 million transactions worth a combined $349 million were processed. So they are definitely gaining experience ahead of the 2024 Olympic Games, which will be held in Paris. As you can see, things are rapidly unfolding, which is why it is so important to stay informed and up to date on a daily basis.